How you like that thumbnail though? So Tucker Carlson has been fired. At least that's the assumption. I think the official wording was that they have parted ways. Um, and Tucker Carlson was not given an opportunity to say his goodbyes to his audience. So take from that what you will. Now, my guess is the reason they got rid of him has to do with the verdict on this case where they did the $700 million settlement. Um, Essentially, Fox News took a major hit, and I would have to say Tucker Carlson would be right at the middle of it. I mean, he in many ways I would look at as the sort of the epicenter of Fox, right? I mean, so much so that they were intentionally trying to Tuckerize their network, trying to get more of the programs to be, you know, in line with Tucker Carlson's sensationalism and, just that radical whatever, radical left, this and that, Biden, socialism, whatever craziness he's talking about. I think blinded by the money you could make from this sort of manipulative, dishonest content, they let Tucker run wild. In fact, they added fuel to the flames, right? By again trying to Tuckerize the network, right? A couple times he pushed things to a level where there were some minor consequences here and there, advertisers pulling back and negative PR and things like that, but a $700 million settlement. When you look at the money he makes for the firm and the increasing risk, and I suppose one could say he's been getting like more and more extreme over time, where's that headed? And then I think after the verdict, I don't think there's no apologies, there's no pulling back. He's all in, always been all in. But then again, what's one of the reasons why they let him run wild? Because he's a major moneymaker for Fox. So it's interesting that they wouldn't try to rein him in, keep him and rein him in to keep the cash coming in, that they felt they needed to cut ties. So I think it'd be interesting to hear any information about how this actually went down, what kind of conversations were had. I'd really want to know the details of how exactly this firing, getting rid of, parting ways actually went down. I think it'd be very telling, because again, all these guys care about is money, right? Which is why they let Tucker do what he did, and others on the network do what they do. But I mean, he's a major icon. He's a major name. It's just tough for me to process. I'd have never predicted. First of all, let's be honest, man. I could have never predicted that they would have gotten rid of him. I've just seen, same thing with the politicians. They lean in with the craziness and the lies and manipulation, and exposing him does nothing, man. They just double down. They just can't stop, won't stop. Get it. That's all. They just keep on keeping on. And I figure, I don't know. I'm surprised at that. But here's an interesting sort of food for thought. I look at left-wing partisan media as very dishonest, very corrupt, very manipulative. They are selective in their reporting. Case in point, you're not going to learn much information about left-wing extremists from left-wing media, right? They will shelter their extremists while going hard against the right-wing extremists, which shows a little bit of hypocrisy. If they really cared about extremism, then they would be talking about extremism, not just talking about extremism of their political opponents. Right, so I don't have a lot of love for left-wing media. Very dishonest, very manipulative. That being said, if I were a conservative, I would be very troubled by the realization of a certain fact, which is that it seems that only the very worst people are champions of my ideology. I call out left-wing media all the time. I call out the American left all the time for a lot of nonsense that they do. But there's plenty of people on the left that can be taken seriously. You may look at them as naive. I think it's one of the biggest themes you see in left-wing media. But on the right, consistently you see people that know better, that are basically lying to their audiences. Again, left-wing media very dishonest as well, but look at a network like MSNBC, right? The typical media personnel that you want to challenge on the left would be somebody like Rachel Maddow, right? Rachel Maddow might take some bits of information and string it together to form a narrative that she believes to be, maybe some of it is she believes it to be profitable, some of it perhaps ideological. But I just don't see her being as disgustingly and overtly dishonest as I do see typical right-wing media. Like, I would never see her, for example, let's say Mitt Romney became president. I could never see her referring to him consistently as a far right president. He's far right. He's an extreme far right. Like, that's something that you would see typically on Fox News, not just Tucker Carlson, right? Presenting the centrist, center right, maybe you want to call him, person who's basically a conservative, right? He's basically a moderate conservative. You will see a common theme of these folks who just describe him as he's some kind of socialist, he's some kind of far left guy, he's extreme. I mean, this guy's so milquetoast, right? He agrees with them on so much. He calls them his good friends, right? But they would refer to him, they would paint him as Joe Biden as he's some far left extremist, right? Now, someone on the right would say a version of this is where somebody like Rachel Maddow might refer to Trump as a white supremacist. I just don't see that being the same thing. I believe this falls into the naive thing. And again, that's one of the key differences I see between the misleading information that we get from right wing versus left wing media. I see more people being naive on the left, and on the right, I see it be more intentional. Right? I think it's standard practice on the right to push out stuff that's completely contrary to what you actually believe. Pretend you like Trump when you hate Trump, right? Pretend you believe the election's stolen when you actually don't believe it's stolen, right? That's normal. But if I were to talk to somebody like Rachel Maddow about her ideas that Trump is a white supremacist, behind the scenes, I was a close friend, I don't think that she would deviate that much from what we see on the news. Now, I think greed is involved, so she might play it up a little bit more, right? But ultimately, when I watch left wing or liberal media and I hear them talking about white supremacy and racism, I see that as this is what they believe, and they're whatever their intentions are, they're communicating that to their audience. Whereas on the right wing media, they would look at someone like Joe Biden that they know clearly is not even close to socialism, and they call him a socialist, call him a far left extreme guy, and he's so far out of the norm. When Joe Biden is Mr. Norm himself. Now he may virtue signal here and there and say some stuff that sounds kind of crazy to conservatives, but when you look at what he actually does, right? I will always remember, what was it? Trump was advocating for more money, more stimulus than Joe Biden actually ended up giving. Joe Biden made a big promise of how much he's going to give, and then he cuts it in half and plays a numbers game of, you're supposed to combine it with the previous payment. Like, that's extreme. I look at people like Tim Pool, who, and again, this is all rampant in right-wing media. Somebody like him, who I believe is probably a liberal to some degree, or left-leaning person, but yet he just so conveniently happens to align with whatever the right is pushing, except when he does his little fence-sitting game that he does. So you have a guy who is promoting and sort of pretending to be of an ideology that he really isn't of, in my view, right? And you have somebody like Officer Tatum, same thing, right? He's sitting there going around sort of pandering to a certain audience that loves to hear about, how awful people are that look like me, right? Loves to put those videos out. And present himself as, something that he apparently is not. When you see him behind the scenes, see his thug-like behavior, and you see how he tries to present himself as some kind of a, reasonable person or whatever, respectable, unlike the thugs that he likes to talk about. But then behind the scenes, he's a thug, right? You look at someone like Steven Crowder, who pretends to believe in election fraud stuff, Sharpie Gate, whatever, and I'm just a comedian, just making jokes, right? And then ignores everything that goes against what he's putting out there, right? And you look at how they present themselves. Like Steven Crowder, just a comedian, it's all like sarcasm, like, I was just joking, right? Jimmy Dore, same thing. Everything's all sarcastic, and I'm just a comedian, right? Supposedly on the left, but somehow aligning with whatever the right wing is talking about and what their thing is. Somehow he's not too far behind, right? You look at Fox News in general. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to describe, because I mean, you're talking about, MSNBC, a dishonest network, Fox News, a dishonest network. But to try to explain to people the levels in terms of what the difference is. I mean, I was watching Fox News just now, throughout the day, and everyone seems so fake, right? It's not a matter of like naive and they don't know better. And like the whole point is just say whatever it takes to get people away from the Democrats and into the arms of the Republicans, right? So anything the Democrats do, oh, paint it as, oh, look at her, right? Liberal media, I don't see them doing that. You know, I mean, if Trump were to do something good, I definitely don't expect them to talk about it. They're not going to want to compliment him, but you know, let's put it this way: if Republicans actually did something good, and they have done things good, I will hear, liberal media, especially progressive media, they will compliment it. They'll say, listen, one of these things that these radical, Matt Gaetz, whatever, one of the things they're pushing for, like when they were doing the whole forced to vote thing, right? There were some things that they were fighting for that I saw in progressive media, like this is actually good stuff, right? These people are frauds, blah blah blah. We think that they're bad faith, but some of the stuff that they're asking for is pretty cool, right? You would never hear that on Fox News, right? And to me, that is a distinction. Like, no matter what the Democrats are doing, it must be painted as evil, it's destroying this country, blah blah blah, and everyone just looks so fake. I was watching the woman, a little bit darker than me, with her caterpillar eyelashes, just so fake, man. Look at the expressions on her face, her body language. You can just tell she doesn't believe a thing she's saying. You look at the five. I mean, those characters, like the tone of their voice. That's the thing. Why is it that, for some reason, the conservative ideology, you don't really have any good champions. The worst of the worst are the ones on your side. Why is that? I mean, you can have a conservative ideology and you can be supportive of it, but you have a show like The Five. Why is it that those characters appear to be so much characters? Like, it's just so fake. Like, I watch when one person's talking and they might say something that kind of goes against the narrative, and you'll see the other one with a look on their face that is just kind of like the look of a bullshitter that's like thinking, how can I say something to to sort of obscure whatever's being said or something like that. I mean, it's just, I don't see, I can't think of one genuine right-wing influencer. Every single one of them, they all seem to be of the same caliber of just fake people pretending, just overtly lying. When I look at even someone like Sam Cedar that I critique a lot, he, like, I did a video today talking about how he was kind of, to me, he was giving a bad faith argument. But the thing about it is, Sam Cedar's a guy that on a regular basis, you can listen to him make solid arguments defending his positions in terms of his ideology. Serious arguments, backing it up with facts and evidence. You may not agree with him, but he's having serious conversations. Those who don't like him will highlight when he's not being serious, some of the silly stuff that he does. But if you generally look at his content on a regular basis, you can expect him to make serious comments about the things that he believes in. I almost never see that in right-wing media. It's like whatever the hell they're talking about, it's all games, it's all sarcasm, it's all pretending, right? Let's pretend to care about Eminem. Let's pretend to care about Dr. Seuss. Let's pretend to be outraged about Budweiser put some trend. Like, you could tell they don't believe in that stuff. When Sam Cedar talks about our government needs to do more, right? You can see there's something he really believes in, right? And he's talking about something that is serious and has serious consequences. He says, listen, there are Americans out there that are struggling, and our government has the capability to do more. Like, you may disagree with that. You may think that that's not the way to go. But he's making an argument, making a case, and it's a case you can take seriously. You can disagree with it, but you can say, okay, I see where you're coming from, but I think you're wrong. I can't say that to Tim Pool or Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro or Officer Tatum or anybody on Fox News almost, right? Because there's sort of no attempt to be serious about anything. And the thing I notice also is that you see on the right with politicians and right wing media, it's all trolls, right? Look at who the icons are. Elon Musk, right? What is he? One of the biggest trolls. He's out there taking away people's blue check. Giving, like, why is it that, like, if I'm a conservative, I'm gonna reflect and say, what is it about my ideology that attracts such trash? Why aren't there people of character? Of course, people would say they disagree with me and say, no, they are people of character, but uh, I would say that you're being manipulated emotionally and you're not seeing the reality. But I personally, recognizing all of this trolling from the Republican Party, from right wing influencers, why is it that it doesn't seem like any good people want to champion a right wing ideology? Why is it only the most disgusting people? Now, I'm not saying because you're a right winger you're disgusting, but you know, for some reason, only really bad people champion your ideology, and I would wonder why that is. Now, to separate the influencers from the audience, with all this manipulation and people being given skewed information, you know, you can see how people can fall for stuff, and you know, so you could be a good person who has fallen into the trap of this major machine that's been, promoting this ideology and painting the other side as evil, right? So while I think overwhelmingly the influencers are disgusting people, I don't think that of the audiences, right? Because when I look at people who watch a lot of race baiting stuff, like the Young Turks, and they walk around the world super paranoid, everything is racist, everybody's racist. I separate that mentality from the race baiters that have sort of brainwashed them, right? So it's not like this person. I don't put all the blame on this person that's going around racially paranoid. I put most of the blame on the thought leaders who have influenced this person into thinking that way. So a lot of people who are of the right wing ideology, who are watching these dishonest influencers, I think the reason that they sort of are where they are politically is because of the warped information that they've been presented with. I think that many people who are conservatives now, who identify as conservatives now, if they lived in a world of truth and facts and this dishonest manipulation in the media didn't exist, I think many of them wouldn't identify as conservative, right? They can only come to the conclusions based on the information given, and information that they're given on a day-to-day basis from a major machine is very warped. Just like, again, people who watch a lot of MSNBC, TYT, their perception of racism is not going to really be aligning with reality. They're going to be very racially paranoid because every day, oh, this racist guy did this and white supremacy this and da 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 da, right? Same how people in the conservative ideology, opposite effect. If every day you're watching something, there's no talk about anything racism, except to talk about that it's not racism, right? So there's no talk about racism until, oh, look, the left is calling this racist and it's not. So what's the end result? You're going to have a very sort of view that racism isn't really a thing. It's not that big of a deal anymore. And anytime you hear anybody talking about racism, you're going to have a reaction of like, ah, boy, here we go again. Right? So I definitely clearly separate the audience from the influencers, but something is definitely very, very wrong with the conservative ideology in America. I won't speak for other countries, but in America, something's very, very wrong. And I think it is evident by You know, there's a lot of, you know, I may be a pessimistic person, but there are a lot of good people in this country, and I just wonder why it seems like none of them have any interest in promoting the conservative ideology. You may have audience members who believe it's the right thing, and they, you know, as an individual, might try to promote the ideology and look at someone like me, you know, who's left leaning, and you know, try to influence me away from what they see as a very bad ideology. But none of those good people that believe that would try to influence me to the right, none of them are influencers. None of them are out there pushing this ideology. Like the people who make a decision, like I'm gonna make money doing this. I'm gonna make this is my life. I'm gonna do this for a living. Some of the worst in the business. Why is that? I think that's a question that should be asked and answered. Democrats are the new genuine right-wing influencers. Oh boy. That's because they have nothing when it comes to addressing real problems Americans face. They don't even have fake solutions to real problems anymore. They simply have to go right. That's actually a good point. Um, because that's a tactic that I see will be used, right? So when you're not really serious about stuff, you hear the left talking about something and you think that that's a bad idea. Um, the trick is to, you know, you just throw out there some kind of sort of vague idea that you think is better, but you make no attempt to promote it, to push it, to realize it, right? You know, in fact, you only mention it in the context of when you get pushback, right? Somebody really pushes you on a topic, and you say, "Well, what we could do is we could just have people, look into things, and then come up with a system where we look at that information and we come together, and you know, both sides talk to each other, and we come up with better ideas." Like word salad, right? But it's not, you're not serious about it, because again, you're not advocating for it, you're not pushing for it, you're not trying to make it actually happen, and you won't even mention it unless someone's pushing you hard on your positions, right? So that's like a fake solution. That's an alternative. Like whatever the other side is doing, it's wrong, it's evil, it's going to destroy this country. And what we should do is we should think about things and be more methodical about it, and do analysis, and we could do stuff and that, and then that's it. Never hear you talk about it again. But we're at a point now where they're not even willing to do that. Not even a fake solution. There's no solution. It's just this is woke, that is woke, this is woke. Oh, look what the trans are doing. Oh, this, that, Oh, they're trying to abort babies after they're born. 2 years after the baby's born, they're trying to abort. Like, what? And you got to think about it, like, the major topic from right-wing media right now is trans this, trans that, woke this, woke that. While people are starving, while people don't have health care, while people can't pay bills, right? While people are barely making enough money to survive, the right-wing media is all focused on woke stuff, right? So again, all the dishonesty in left-wing media, all the dishonesty that you see in progressive media, all the one-sidedness, right? But they're not all day talking about nonsense, right? I would challenge their ideas. Like, for example, the homelessness thing, definitely that's something that's touched my life in terms of with my housing situation. And I would challenge the solutions that they're pushing for, but they're actually talking about real issues. There are people who are, challenged with housing, right? That's a real issue. And they talk about real solutions. I think the solutions are not well thought through, but they're talking about real solutions to real problems that are really affecting people's ability to be healthy, right? I mean, not having a house and then you're homeless. I mean, how is that? What kind of life is that, right? But the right wing influencers, instead of talking about stuff like that, they want to talk about M&Ms and Dr. Seuss. Um, Again, some of the most disgusting people, for some reason, gravitate towards right wing media in terms of being an influencer. Like when people sit down and they say, I wanna do commentary. I want to do a conservative media channel, right? Consistently, those people who make that decision, not the best people at all, right? A lot of bad people on the left and liberal media, but they ain't got nothing on the typical right wing influencer. Just the worst of the worst. Very dishonest. Believing in one thing, pushing another. Like again, I think a lot of these liberal media, they really believe the stuff that they're saying. I think they're misguided, they're misinformed about some things, but they really believe those things, right? The things that they'll be dishonest about beyond just like one-sidedness is, they will see the Democrats, some of them, not all of them, right? See the Democrats doing some stuff that's not good, and they will pretend not to see it, right? But pretending not to see something that the bad the Democrats are doing is not quite the same thing as overtly lying, right? Overtly lying, calling Mitt Romney an extremist far right winger. That's equivalent of what the right wing media are doing, right? Calling Joe Biden a socialist, and that's a common thing, right? So it's not even just like some extreme whatever. It's a common thing for them to refer to Joe Biden as some kind of radical, right? Zero integrity. Anyway, on that note, that's because they have nothing when it comes to because the right is so far right, it meets all 14 of the 14 characters of fascism. As bad as the Dems are, they at least lie to us. The right does not even bother lying about how horrific they are, so it attracts their people. I guess that's an interesting thing, right? The big scam with the Democrats is playing good guys, right? But right wing influencers, I mean, they're talking about what are they saying stuff about? They want the church to run the country, ban abortions, ban abortion pills, ban contraceptives. Like this is all stuff you're hearing from right wing media. That's the stuff that they're pushing out, right? And then when the left tries to talk about police reform, and they use bad sort of taglines or whatever as like defund the police, because the right wing media is so dishonest, they'll go out there and pretend as if the big push is to get rid of the police. That's what I'm saying. Like they don't care, right? They will know that that is not what's being discussed, that it's really reform. And rather than challenge the actual arguments of like, okay, they wanted to reform and this is why it's not going to work, pretend as if they want to get rid of the police and then we'll have no police, and then what's going to happen when somebody breaks in your house and there's no police, right? Anyway, this is the Bateman channel. Debate in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well, and I'm out.